Good evening. Good evening, Nigerian time. Good morning. I don't know whether it's Australian time. Good afternoon, wherever you are. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. I am back live. I want to harness the fact that I'm at home today and I didn't go to the farm. I want to make as much use of this time as possible. Archbishop Benson Idahosa was traveling with George Bush Sr. And George Bush Sr. was working frantically on his computer. And Archbishop Benson Idahosa asked him, "You are the US president. Why are you working so frantically on your computer?" The man said, "There is no time. There is no time. Teach us to number our days aright, and let us apply our hearts to wisdom." So if you are online, invite others to come and join this broadcast. And I will start very soon because I had network challenges and I don't want to have anyone this time. I want to look at building like the ant. Building like the ant. Let me say this up front. I had a friend who took my books. One of them, he changed the cover and he went to launch it as his intellectual property in Port Harcourt. My own book. He changed the cover. He went and put it, Power of Determination. It was my work, he copied. And I saw it, but I just looked at him. He can't replicate it. This principle of the philosophy of the ant, I gave him this book to read. He went around teaching on the philosophy of the ant. He could not replicate it. I know he will watch this video, but I was very upset with what he did, and I must state it up front. This is my intellectual property, and he should not have copied it and started portraying it as if it is his own work. And I told him when we went to Bayelsa that this work will judge you, because people will need to see the results. I have produced results with what I am teaching. So you must produce results. If not, you are fake. So building like the ant. This book is about 20-something years old, maybe 22, 23 years old. So there are references that are there that you will need to extrapolate to modern day values. In 1990, my wife and I told one of my pastor friends that he could start building a house with 5,000 naira. That's 1990. He took our advice, and within 3 years, he was living in his own house. He brought the 5,000 naira. He bought a few bags of cement then and some trips of sand and started molding blocks. And within a few months, with consistency and focus, remember the ant is consistent. The ant is not distracted. The ant is focused. So what you need to build anything, this time now talking about the building now. What I'm doing here, I've done a live broadcast. I'm doing a second one. I'm building this page. I'm building this audience. I'm building this family that are sharing ideas with me. If I stay in my house with these ideas, they will just be a burden. But I thank God I have an avenue, an easy avenue to share these things that have been with me. Imagine this stuff has been with me for more than 23 years. More than 23 years. So focus is very essential in anything you do. Consistency is very essential in anything you do. Determination. Those are key characteristics of the ant. Focus, consistency, and determination. So Many people live as tenants for a very long time. Some even die as tenants. A young man, the landlord was harassing his father, and his father was making noise. He said, I served the Nigerian police force in Makurdi, served the Nigerian police force in Enugu, served this country in Ibadan. I have served this country. Don't treat me like trash. Then the young man went to meet his father. He said, Daddy, why didn't you build a house in any of these towns where you served? The father said, my son, that's a very good question, but don't let your children ask you the same question. Don't let your children ask you the same question. There are people who live in cities, live extravagant life in cities. They remain tenants. I know very prominent people who have a lot of friends and class, tenants. I was in one house like that recently, tenants. They live in estates as tenants. They live in people's houses as tenants. There is a certain age you reach. When you become a grandfather, you shouldn't be a tenant. People will insult you. Don't drive big cars as a tenant. Don't spray money in parties as a tenant. It's very humiliating. Very, very humiliating. I went for a burial ceremony, and then there's big burial ceremony in a big field. And they said that they wanted only a few people to go and see where they would bury this 70-year-old man. Really 70-year-old man. But I was curious. I got there. It was in between cassava that they cleared, that they buried him. It is not important for somebody like me, but it was quite humiliating. The son drives an SUV in town, very notable, but his father was buried in the bush. Where I come from, they will make mockery of you, they will insult you. So, you must own a property. Those of you living overseas, try as much as possible to own a property in Nigeria. Own a house in Kenya. Own a building wherever you come from. We never can tell what will happen. My wife will always tell me one day that people will follow you to your home. When I was preaching in the Assemblies of God Church, as I said in one of my videos, to their men all over Nigeria, Barrister Azuka of blessed memory, the men's director, called me one day. He said, Dr. Charles, I said, Brother Charles, as he would call me. I said, yes, sir. Where are you, Asami Nugeli? He said, I want to know you to your home. And he came. Then I was building these houses, building this school. He said, I can now testify that what you are saying is true, and that I will be able to defend you. Don't live as a tenant. It's not fair. Have somewhere you call a home. Now, you don't need bulk money to build a house. And you must not build a very big house. And you must not build any house that resembles that of your friends. Have a place where you can rest your head. Oh, when we built these houses here, the first day we moved into the smaller one, the sleep was different. It was as if I was under anesthesia. The freedom, the liberty is enormous. So it's good to own a property of your own. Have a home. You don't need so much money to start. The first thing is to own a piece of land. Own a piece of land. Recently, I went with my lawyer in a direction towards Agbara, where Ibru comes from. And we went off the road. And I saw one young Igbo boy that sells clothes near me here. He had a small house with his wife. He sat outside. I was wondering, this young Igbo boy with his shop where he sells clothes, managed to buy land and has built a house, and he is not a tenant. And prices of properties have shot up there because of the roads that were the road network that was done there by a politician. The first step is to own a piece of land. How do you own the piece of land? Simplest approach is to locate a piece of land. It might not be in the center of the city. It might not be in a built-up area. Speculatively go to an area where the town will expand to. People who bought properties in Cardoso, who bought properties in Ekpe, who bought properties in different parts of the country, or bought properties where Nehemiah School is in Port Harcourt, people who bought properties in the outskirts of Onitsha and Enugu, even in Asaba, the prices have gone up. So locate a place there. The Bible says Mary Magdalene went out, John chapter 20 there. It says Mary Magdalene went out when it was still dark. Can't remember the passage of John now. Went out when it was still dark. Go to some of these places, buy properties when it is still dark. When people, go to Guinea, where the Jehovah's Witnesses are, near Otul Jeremy. It was a small marketplace with 10 traders. Now we have traffic there. It has opened up all the areas around that place. They have opened up. Like where we are selling in Efronton, in a few years, it will open up. I hear 2 companies are coming near where I bought. So locate a land. Buy where it is not very expensive. Negotiate the price and pay a deposit. Let them issue you a receipt. You don't need to pay at once. Then start putting savings, start saving and putting the savings into paying for the land. After which you survey the land. After surveying the land, you can do that with the deposits so that if there is any land tussle there, as you are harassing the land, according to what one woman taught me, as you are harassing the land, if there are any contentions in the place, people will come up. So after paying, a deed of conveyance is signed by the lawyer, is prepared by the lawyer, and those who sold to you will sign. Please buy freehold. Don't buy lease. It doesn't take time before your lease will expire. If it doesn't expire in your lifetime, it will expire in the lifetime of your children, and it will be very, very embarrassing. So when you finish signing, then you can start the registration process. You can start the registration process while drawing a building plan. Draw a modest plan. Big houses become irritating when you get older. I have an 8-bedroom house here with 10 toilets. I have another one here, 1, 2, 3, 4 rooms with toilets inside 2 and a kitchen. This whole block, nobody is living there. It is very, very embarrassing to own big buildings in old age when all the children are gone. So build a modest house, but make provisions for the need to expand and do other things. So the advantage of buying in the periphery is that you can buy bigger space for a smaller amount. Look at Canaan land where Bishop David Oyedepo has his property. It was bush in those days. Go there now. Prices are very high. He could afford that because it was bush in those days. So you can have enough space. If you see behind me, you will see avocado, you will see plantains. I have enough space because I bought in a suburban economy then, but I'm surrounded by hotels, by different eateries, and the express road is not far from here. So we used to catch fish here, tilapia, when it rains, but it has changed. So sign the document, get a building plan, then start molding blocks. If you live in Africa, start molding blocks. If you walk like the ant by gathering grains of sand, within a short while, you will have had enough blocks to start with. Thank you for watching from Romania. So you one bag of cement with proper molding will give you 40 blocks of 5 inches, 30 to 35 of 6 inches. If you mold 100 bags of cement 5 inches, you will get 4,000 blocks. In a dry land, that is enough to build a 3-bedroom bungalow. So I used to tell people, if you carry bone straight on your head of 450,000 naira, that's 100 bags of cement. The 100 bags of cement can give you 4,000 blocks, minus sand and labor, but you have the potential of 4,000 blocks. So with 450,000, you can buy 100 bags of cement. So by the time you spend 450,000, you stagger it, you would have had 4,000 blocks. That is to say, if you stagger it 45,000 for 10 times, you would have had, oh, Brown, you're watching from Turkey, that's awesome. By the time you stagger it 45,000 for 10 times, you will have 4,000 blocks. If it is 90,000 times 4 times, you will have 4,000 blocks. I was in a barbing salon where I went to cut my hair as we were coming from the airport, and I was in the massager. It was massaging me. One young boy was boasting how he bought drinks of 40,000 in a night, and they drank. You drank 40,000 naira in a night, and you might be a tenant, because only stupid people behave like that. Don't park 3 cars in front of another man's building. Each of those cars, the resources you spent on those cars is enough to build a small bungalow that you can live in. I have young friends who have very exquisite bungalows, very fine, with electric gates and all that. You don't need to build a bogus house. So the next stage after molding blocks, I've shown you how to mold blocks. I think a trip of sand will take 25 bags of cement. A trip of sand will take 25 bags of cement. 40 blocks times a trip of sand, 25 bags of cement. 25 bags of cement times 40 is 200. So by the time you repeat, I saw somebody watching from Zurich. Thank you so much. By the time you repeat that over a period of time, you have had 4,000 blocks. So one of my workers in the farm, I just told him, go and meet your family people to give you land. And I've told him to go and put 3 trips of sand there. He's getting to 40, he doesn't have anything to show. And I will help him and stimulate him to build a house that he can move into, because he's not getting younger. He is not getting younger. So when you live in the township, you live elsewhere, you think you are young. You are not young. And church people can make you feel that you are young. No, you are stupid. You're not young. So the next thing is to lay the foundation. You can prepare for the foundation. You don't need a huge amount at once. The first thing you need to do is to buy the quantity of gravel you will need for the foundation. You can buy 1 trip of granite. 1 trip of granite, the small trip, not the big trip. Those who don't want to build always say that when I have money, I'll just buy a trailer load, 30 tons. You will not build, because you might not have the money to buy 30 tons at once. So buy the small bush loads, as we call them in Nigeria, maybe 18 tons or whatever. Buy. Go and pour it there. You receive your salary again, buy another one, put. You receive another salary, buy another one, put. Those ones you have put there are nearly enough in a small bungalow for your foundation, the coping of your DPC, and the lintel and your pillars. You'll be surprised. So buy. Then when you do that, the next thing you need to do, if you need rods, pick them piecemeal. Go and meet the person selling rods. Pay for 5. Pay for another 5. He will be keeping them for you. Before you know it, you have bought about 100 rods. That's how to do it. You pay, and it will give you receipt. You pay. Price increases will not affect you. So you pay for it. Then you keep your rods. Then once you have accumulated materials, the foundation can be laid. The foundation of Petra Institute Efronto, anytime I went to preach, I bought sand. My lawyer advised me, a young man, advised me that anytime you buy sand that you have started building already. So if I go to preach, they give me small honorarium that is not worth it, I will buy a trip of sand. Then sand was 11,000. Today sand is 21,000. And I somewhere there I have about 20-something trips of sand. So I've saved 200 and something thousand. The man needed money to dredge sand at one time, I gave him. So when I needed 165 trips of sand, it was a little bit I paid him because he was owing me. So lay the foundation. When you lay the foundation, start setting the blocks. It is preferable to do it during the dry season so that if you don't lay the blocks, rain will not wash the sand you have excavated into the DPC. Into the foundation. So you lay your blocks. As you lay your blocks to the DPC, damp casts, DP, damp cast something. So damp proof cast. In waterlogged areas, that damp proof cast prevents water from going up through capillarity. What I saw in Kenya was that when they built to that level, there's a plastic material, the size of the blocks, that they put so that water through capillarity will not go up in the building. So you reach the DPC level. What you need now is filling to fill the DPC. What you do is that you buy sand, you tell people to help you throw them inside. Since the foundation is not too big, the one I used 165 trips for was a mighty building where the first administrative and classroom block for Petra Institute. So you put you fill the DPC. You can rest for a while. Meaning the DPC will be sinking so that when you floor it, it will not crack. That is the sand, the filling sand will be sinking. So, but when you fill, make sure you do backfilling. Backfilling is the sand you use to support or how can you get my books in Switzerland? Go to petrapublications.com. petrapublications.com. Somebody will send Engineer Ofoma, Dr. Ofoma will put on the link for you now. So you do backfilling. The reason you do backfilling is that if there is so much sand inside the rooms and there is no sand at the back supporting the walls, they will crack. So you do backfilling. There's pressure from outside and there's pressure from inside. There is a balance. So you do backfilling. Then once you do that, you are good. Then you start to save money to buy another set of cement and to pay bricklayers. When you buy cement, you make sure as they are molding for you, please make sure you supervise them. Many are called, few are thieves. When we were building the school at Okwokoko, the man we put there to supervise, to secure the place, was selling our cement and selling our rods, but they never do well. So try as much as possible to ensure security. Try as much as possible to make sure that it is the number of bags of cement that they use to mold your blocks. If not, they can mold extra blocks and still cement so that the blocks will start cracking. Very wicked people. So you start going up. As you go up from the DPC, you see that the building is moving very fast because you will create space for doors. And by the time you go 3 or 4 blocks, I'm talking about building like the ant. Adewale, I'm talking about building like the ant. Building like the ant. So that is the principle of gradualism, building with the principle of gradualism. So when you reach the doors, you start putting doors. When you put doors, you find out that your blocks will be rising faster until you reach the window sitting level. Window sitting level can be 3, 4 blocks depending on what you want. You will now find out that by the time you put windows, your building will be rising, and it's so pleasing. It's so pleasing to see the little effort you are putting going up. And then you keep adding blocks. You can go and buy planks because they will need to do scaffolds to stand, to lay blocks at a higher height. You don't need to buy too many planks at once. When these people give you quotations, many of them have not built. You don't need to use many bricklayers. The work will be rough. If you have one bricklayer or two, you can supervise them well. If not, they will just be hustling to get as many blocks as possible. Don't award it as a contract. Let them count the number of blocks they lay in a day and pay per block. So you can get a supervisor and pay the supervisor to supervise the work if you don't have chance. So for my wife and I, we find it very exciting to embark on projects. The difference between an ugly house and a beautiful one is just a matter of taste, not cost. Once you get a good plan, ensure you supervise the work closely and carefully. It is usually he who has a vision that can provide supervision. Make sure your walls are straight. Make sure they use the big plumb to do the walls. Make sure they smoothing the mortar, and then you find out that within a space of time you are at lintel. You are not competing with any person. Go at your own pace so that you can still pay your children's school fees, so that you can still eat in the house and pay your house rent and have money to buy fuel to go home. But you must reduce extraordinary expenses. Reduce extraordinary expenses. When I was building, I was dressing the barest minimum dressing. I was wearing Accra, using the cheapest clothes. Today, people are buying for me. This is a Brazilian jersey, along the ones that somebody bought from Lagos for me, 5 of them. I used the Nigerian one, now I'm using the Brazilian one. So, ensure that you do not embark on a bogus house, I said that, out of competitive spirit. Ants build their houses according to their needs, location, and the nature of soil, which is the source of their raw materials. Your building plan should have space for adjustment in case you need to improve on the building. A young man came this afternoon. He wanted to provide a store for his wife in front to sell things. And there was space, so he could use it. Once you reach the lintel, you can do the lintel with focus. Number 1, you have accumulated granite before. Number 2, buy the rods piecemeal again. Buy the rods. As you buy the rods, you now have rods to do the lintel. The good thing about lintel in a dry land is that most of the rods are usually, they don't go around the building like a story building. They don't go around the building like a story building. They are in the door posts, window posts, like that. So, do the lintel. Buy more planks. Learn to reuse planks. Buy more planks and then board your lintel. You don't need to pour the lintel all at once. You can segment it. Pour 1 unit. Let there be a slope. Let the rods project out. Then remove those planks after 2 or 3 days. Board the other side. And then pour the other side. And before you know it, you have poured your lintel. And it's so exciting. By the time you've finished pouring your lintel, setting your lintel or casting your lintel, you then need about 3 sets of blocks again to round up the lintel. Then if you want to build with a gable, the gable is what holds the woods to roof. You can put a gable. There are other ways to build now because of the cost of plank. People are building in a slanting fashion. They slant the building. The wood might not come out. They are inside. It has 2 advantages. Number 1, it saves you cost of wood, saves you cost of roofing sheets. Then, now that we are having a lot of storms in Nigeria, it saves your roof from pulling off. But there's a little challenge. If they don't do it well, if the roof is inside, it might start leaking. So what you do, you can leave the roof to be on top and then set it, make sure that it is well chained. You chain the roof, the wall plates. I see, I'm a doctor. I'm talking architecture. You chain the wall plates with rods or with motorcycle chains, condemned motorcycle chains. You chain them so that the breeze will not, storm will not lift it off. So you don't need to buy the roofing sheets at once. Even these modern roofing sheets that they sell per square meter, you can go there and start paying per square meter, not the aluminum long span. There are some coated roofing sheets. You can start paying per square meter. And within a space of time, the principle of gradualism, the philosophy of the ant, you have accumulated roofing sheets, then arranged to roof. Planks, buy your planks at once. Don't go and give money to somebody to cut wood for you, to cut planks for you, to saw planks for you. I tried it, and I nearly got into trouble with people. They will take your money and run away, and they will not do what they promised to do. So after roofing, you are virtually a landlord. The remaining fittings can be done gradually, like the plastering. Plastering can be done gradually. If you started in the dry season, rainy season will now be coming. You can start plastering one room at a time, one portion of the house at a time. Segment it. Be plastering piecemeal. And by the time you finish plastering, the next thing is to fix frames and doors. You can put them piecemeal. You don't need to do everything at once. Put one door, one frame, one window frame, like that. And before you know it, over a period of time, you've fixed everything you need in terms of doors. Then, if you want to floor, you don't need to floor the whole building one day. You can floor a few rooms at a time. You floor a few rooms at a time. You don't need to do the German floor of flooring the whole building. No, you floor each one at a time. And then after that, you call an electrician who will start doing his electrical work. Don't say contract. Discuss with him stage by stage. He will pay people to crack the walls, to put your conduits, wiring, and all that. And you can continue like that with the philosophy of the ant and go bit by bit and own a building, a bungalow. In the story building, the most difficult aspect are the foundations, the pillars, and then the decking. You can also use the same principle of the philosophy of the ant. I hope you will have questions because I will soon round up. I have interviewed many people who built fine houses and found out that they did not accumulate millions of naira or dollars before they started. They will usually tell you that once they started, God started supplying the needs for the building. I am a witness. I am a witness. Once I start a project, I wanted to buy a property today with the money they paid me, and I was a little bit hesitant. And I paid. As I paid, a lecture I'm supposed to give in June, as I was doing this broadcast, they paid in. So if I did not take a step of faith, the resources will not come. If you don't step into the River Jordan, it will not divide. And God will not take you into the River Jordan in dry season, because God likes to do shakara according to Nigerian language. He wants to pose with you. People will look at you with your small strength, your small salary, the challenges you have, and you are a landlord. So it is all the glory goes to him. God wants to use weak and small people to achieve great things so that glory can come to him. I have a vulcanizer just across this fence. He is a landlord. Many of those who come to vulcanize their tires, they are not landlords, they are tenants. He used the principle of the philosophy of the ant. I wrote here that if there are no needs, God does not supply. He said, the Lord shall supply your needs. So until the needs are created, there is no supply. When a baby is not born, if baby is not born, Esther, how are you? Where are you watching from? Kenya? Are you watching from Kenya? Because your name sounds like a Kenyan name, your surname. Esther, where are you watching from? And so, when a baby is born, breast milk is formed. Yes, my in-law, my eldest son is going to marry a Kikuyu girl. So we'll be coming to Nairobi to eat, is it ugali or matoke? We'll come and eat ugali. So God does not supply when there are no needs. Esther, thank you so much. There could be a spiritual negative feedback. Wow, you're Kikuyu, that's good. You people are very, very entrepreneurial in Kenya, the Kikuyus. You can sell anything and become millionaires from it. I admire your spirit. So, if we fail to create needs, there will be a positive, a spiritual negative feedback. Once we feel satisfied, we feel settled, God does not bring supply. Until the woman that was in 2 Kings chapter 4, as much as she has containers to pour oil into, the oil expanded. So if you don't create space for God to pour resources into, God believes in the law of increasing marginal utility, not diminishing. The more you utilize, the more you create needs, and the more you utilize his resources to bring glory to him, the more he gives to you. That is a secret. God does not like waste. He will only give things to you that you will use to glorify his name and a blessing to others. If you sit down and calculate how much you spend for vain things every year, you will be surprised. So after this broadcast, just settle down how much you spend for soda drinks, how much you spend for frivolities. Take a stock of how much you are spending a day for frivolities. Multiply it by 5 days. Okay, that's great. Church buildings are even easier to build. So if you calculate it and compute it over a period of 5 years, you'll be surprised that you should have been a landlord by now, or you should have finished building your church building. When people see these buildings we have built, massive buildings, relatively, they wonder how. It is the philosophy of the ant. We build gradually, consistently, with focus. We are not distracted. And so, if you multiply whatever you have done for 5 years, you'll be surprised that you are supposed to have owned a building of your own. When I see those big buildings that Kikuyus own in Kenya, wow, tall buildings built from rock. I like your rock buildings, the stone building. I like it so much. Those Kikuyus, they are so focused, so concentrated in whatever they are doing. So you see that they manage their resources. They are not flamboyant. They are not noisy. They will enter the house of a wristwatch repairer in Busia K. Busia K is a provincial town. But if you see this man's house, they said he came there as a wristwatch repairer. Just imagine when your father built his house, he was not as educated as yourself. He was not as rich as you are. So why are you still a tenant where you are with your education, your sophistication? Don't let people hype you up. You can build. I had a friend who said that he was not building because the rapture will soon take place. Fine. I built. He is late now. The rapture has not come. You have had more estates by now. Such a nice man. I had somebody who said that he doesn't talk about buildings because he told his people about the rapture. Why can't you say, I've changed my mind? And if the rapture even takes place and they take us away after Dr. Apoki, bad guy, after 3.5 years, we're going to come back to this world. It will not be destroyed yet. We will stay here for another 1,000 years. You want to stay here for another 1,000 years before a new heaven and a new earth will be created. Remember that woman that Elisha raised the son from the dead. And Gehazi, a tenant, stupid man, was called to the palace. Come and tell me the stories of the miracles that Elisha did. And as he was telling the stories, the woman who was a landlady came in and said, this is the woman I was talking about. This is the son that was raised from the dead. And the king said, go and collect all the rents that she's entitled to and pay them to her. Assuming she didn't have a house. Assuming she didn't have a house. Don't misinterpret scriptures. Jesus cradled in a manger, gentle child of gentle mother, living as a homeless stranger, give us grace to persevere. Shut up your mouth. Jesus was not living in Nairobi. He was not living in New York, where you have homeless people. He was not living in Delta State. He was not living in Enugu State. After all, he was from heaven, and he was going to prepare mansions for us there. So don't live like a homeless stranger. Don't sing songs that will make you stupid. Don't sing songs that will make you stupid. If Joseph's grandfather or great-grandfather had buildings in Bethlehem, Jesus would not have been born in a manger. Maybe he was to be born in a manger to fulfill scriptures. But I'm just looking at the other side of midnight. So many people build houses you are living in now as tenants. They build them when they didn't have as much as you are, and they're not as old as you are. So be very, very frugal. Be very, very focused. Be very, very intentional. I don't pay rent anywhere in Nigeria. I don't pay rent anywhere in Nigeria. And I keep telling my children, in whatever countries they are, own properties. I have a grandchild in Romania. I want to go and buy a property there. I want to own properties that my grandchildren can live in. It's possible. So, after listening to this lecture, this is what I want you to do. I want you to take a step of faith. If you are married with your wife or your husband, and you will see how God will bless you. Do not be afraid of stopping halfway. Those who fear stopping halfway never get started. My wife says the best way to start is to start. And it is only what is started that is finished. If you wait until things are very convenient, you will never start. Just start. There is a shirt I see people wear. Just do it. After doing the morning broadcast, there was a tendency for me to go and lie down. But I sent a message to my son, Dr. Ofoma, whether I could do another broadcast. And he said yes. And I've done it. And I am about to sign off. But I will take 3 questions. If you have a question, can you raise up your hand somewhere and type it on the screen, and I will answer. I need questions. I need questions. Let me ask you, yes. What is piecemeal? Your meaning? Okay. P-I-E-C, piece. Small units. Small unit, pieces. Use pieces. Small units. That's what I mean by piecemeal. Principle of gradualism, small units. Don't take it bulk, small units. Thank you so much for that question. Can I get another question? It's a family and it's a school. Can I get another question? Should you take a loan to build? I was expecting such questions. Should I take a loan to build? Those of you living overseas, it's quite different. If you are credit worthy, you are entitled to loans, and you can buy and pay mortgage gradually. But make sure you are consistent. Make sure you pay regularly. Make sure you finish paying on time so that the building can become your own. Don't think that you can delay in payment and then you think you are responsible. You are not credit worthy. Okay, if there is no question, remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Remember to, okay, what if one feels stranded? You've got so much. I can't see can the question come back? Which area can one get a land in Delta for affordable prices? Depends on where you come from. There are pieces of land all over, like where I reside. There are the peripheral towns like Efronto, where we have sold a lot of properties. We are opening a totally new city. We have sold close to 200 acres. In the periphery, there are properties in the periphery. From Udu, you can buy at Ekrope, Ejove, Egini, those areas. You can go to Ogrio. You can move further down towards Otu Jeremy axis. A lot of those properties have been bought. You will see properties to buy. Yes, I was seeing a question, but the thing has left the screen. Can it come up again, please? The question. Somebody. Is there any question? Somebody was asking what areas to invest. I did a video on investment opportunities in Nigeria. So go and look for it. How do you determine the areas of interest, investment as a starter? Look for investment opportunities in Nigeria. I am a teacher interested in farming. I have a farm and want to indulge in agribusiness. Where do I start? Start by consulting local farmers. Look for a farmer who has been successful in what he is doing. Most consultants don't have farm. They always talk big without doing anything. Though, one professor said recently in Lagos, where I went to give a lecture, he said those who teach, those who don't do, teach. Those who teach don't have time. I mean, those who do don't have time to teach. Those who teach don't do. Those who do don't have time to teach. But I have the time. I didn't go to the farm today. So look for local farmers there. When you look for the local farmers, ask them questions. Look for a farmer that has succeeded, not the ones that have failed. Ask them questions. Ask about the crops that do well there. Learn from them. Start from there. You start from there. That's the best way to start, is to learn from somebody who has started. Thank you. Another question. I saw a question. I can't get it. Can the question come up again? I like this one where I can answer questions. Thank God for good network. Any question? Should a woman start building a house when she's not yet married? That's a good question. You can. You can, but don't put it on your forehead. You can build a house and you get married. The husband might know you own a property, but it is advisable for him not to move into your property. It is advisable for him to build his own property, or you jointly build properties. When you are building with your husband, make sure that the title deed is, I give you an example. Don't say Dr. and Mrs. Apoki. Any person can be Mrs. Apoki. Is Dr. Charles Apoki and Mrs. Felicia Apoki. Be specific. Because any person can be Mrs. Apoki. So when you buy the land together, he who owns the land owns the property, everything on it. So is it possible to make it in the healthcare business in Nigeria for those interested in that area? Yes, you can do very well in all segments of the healthcare, from laboratory diagnosis, thank you, Esther. You must think outside the box. From laboratory diagnosis to pharmacy to patent medicine stores to hospitals. But when you want to run hospitals, do group medical practice so that you have different specialties coming together and to practice. Therefore, the cost, the wage bill is lower, and then you share profit. It's much easier, but stipulate your terms of agreement. A population of 200 million people is a fertile ground for healthcare, and with poor hygiene, poor water supply, poor electricity supply, you have things like malaria, preventable diseases like dysentery, diarrhea, and all that. Typhoid enteritis is becoming common. If you are into orthopedics, the road traffic accident rate is very high. If you are into obs and gynae, the fecundity rate is very high in Nigeria. People get pregnant a lot, and you have a lot of businesses. If you are into diagnostics, a lot of the diagnostic centers in the teaching hospitals are not functional. Somebody has a beautiful diagnostic center not far from me here, very beautiful place, can match any standard. And so you bring MRIs, you bring CT scans, you bring ECG, EEG machines, mammography machines, you will make a lot of money. There is money in healthcare in Nigeria. But most importantly, love humanity. Try to contribute your quota towards building this country. I am doing mine in the educational sector. I left the medical sector, but I still will build a specialist hospital. As I told you, my son is an orthopedic surgeon. My daughter is a cardiologist. I'm a general practitioner. My wife is a nurse. I wish that my last born will also marry a doctor so that we'll open a specialist hospital. My children do not need to come and stay permanently. They can come, do treatment, go back. It's just a few hours to Europe from here. That's the modern way of living, be an international citizen. Okay. Any other question? Esther, thank you for your comments. You're thinking outside the box. Yeah. Right. If there are no other questions, I will count to 10. If there are no other questions, I will sign up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I'm your friend, Dr. Charles Apoki. Hopefully, tomorrow morning, I should do another broadcast from the philosophy of the ant. Remember to order these books. Yes, Adewale, you'll be interested in the next. You'll be interested in the next topic, the ant and church finances, chapter 6. Please order this book if you're a pastor, and then Chukwuka Emmanuel, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. God bless you. So what is your greatest fear in life at this age? My greatest fear is I don't want to spoil the legacy I have built. I don't want to spoil the name I have built. I'm always very careful. I don't want to spoil the name I have built, because the name will act as capital for my children and my grandchildren. So I'm always careful. That's why I refuse to contest for the governorship of my state, even when somebody offered to pay. I'm always careful when I manage finances on behalf of people. I'm always careful with members of the opposite sex, because old guns can still shoot. I can still shoot and kill. So I'm always careful of my relationship with members of the opposite sex. I'm always very careful with my doctrines, and with despite the fact that one is a motivational speaker, I'm always careful of staying within the boundaries of the law, within the boundaries of the Word of God. Then I want to be in good health. I always will not want to have a debilitating illness that will make my wife and my children to suffer. I don't want to have a debilitating illness. I don't want to become a nuisance to people. Those are my greatest fears. And I pray that God will help me, that this name, this legacy one has built, one will go and transit into glory with it and will not spoil it. And then my children will run better than I have done, and my grandchildren will run better than I have done, including the ones that will be Kenyans and Nigerians. God bless you.